Welcome to the Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Vantage Circle, the leading employee benefits and engagement platform.
It is in human nature to first look for negatives in everything. Most reports on the news are negative. In our conversations, there are more negative words than optimistic and happy words. Our mind automatically jumps to pessimistic thoughts and grim conclusions when something doesn't go the way we think it should. It is in human nature to repair problems as well. We love finding problems so that we could solve them. We not only use this approach in our own work, but we also use it to assess our workers, and it's very natural. But this is where we go wrong. This is the reason why we are not using our human potential to the fullest. This is the explanation of why we have more average managers than we have genuine leaders. The basic truth is that we should stop attempting to fix our employees and rather center around their strengths and their interest. That's how we can enable them to take our products, image, and culture to the whole new level. Hello everyone, this is Sushmita from Vantage HR Influencers Podcast, and to talk about strength-based leadership and a strength-based culture, I'm so excited to welcome our guest speaker today, Namrata Dhasmana. Namrata has a rich, diversified experience across industry in strategy and leadership roles. She works in a U.S. mortgage industry in a business unit. An HR by heart, she believes every person has innate talents, and as a leader, it is important to find sweet spots between business, technology, and people. She is an IIM L Alumni and a strategic leader and certified global coach. Her immense exposure of varied experiences in Army as an officer makes her unique and differentiator in her career ladder. Welcome to the show, Namrata.
Thanks, Sushmita, for having me.
Yeah. So first, please let us know about your journey from being a strategist in the Indian Army to your current position.
So it's been a journey of 18 years now. Worked with Vedanta, created teams to carry out CSR activities, spearheaded their project of CSR worth 100 crore and made their short-term strategy. Then joined a US mortgage lending bank and driving a lot of $1 million initiatives as a strategist. And I'm based at Hyderabad. So as you have mentioned, been in forces as an army officer and have been in strategist's role across the country, negotiating with a lot of strategic kind of roles, which I really cannot be very precise about all the kind of things. Then have been into learning and development kind of roles, a passionate design thinker and a certified Gallup coach. Now I'm in a consolidation phase of my career. So if you ask about my journey, it has been full of learning, unlearning, applying what all I have learned in my last 18 years in my consolidation phase, and it's still on, right? So one thing what I have learned while dealing with human capital, be it in forces or in corporate, that everyone is unique and diverse. Every person whom I meet with, I cannot put them in any kind of models or framework. I have to deal with them with their innate inborn attributes that they come with. And as a leader, I apply myself, I think myself instead of labeling them or instead of just making, judgments about them. And sometimes doing even hand-holding to for the people who have any kind of transition, be it a midlife transition or any other kind of transition, and so that they achieve they get the success in their life.
Right.
So that's how I consolidate this reply to your first question. I hope you got it.
Yeah, right. So coming to the topic, strength-based leadership, or you can say strength-based culture. So according to you, Namrata, how would you like to define what is strength? What does strength-based mean exactly? Or like, what is a strength-based company culture? Yeah.
Sure, Sushmita. So you see, strength-based simply means identifying and know your employees and your teams with their virtues, right? As a leader, know their talents and invest on their talents and make them their strength. so that their synergy levels are always elevated to increase their motivation and subsequently productivity. It's about how you're making an employee feel when they're meeting you as a leader. You feel good when I tell you your 10 negatives, you come to the office and tell you, okay, go ahead and start your day. This is all that you have not done yesterday. Or your team is lacking in that. Or I tell you, hey, Sushmita, why don't you use your analytical mind or get things started in team? Or why don't you start with your ideation or creativity to give some great business ideas as your natural strength? So strength-based culture also removes biases and favoritism. So why favoritisms? Because when a manager or a leader knows that, okay, this person always does certain things which whenever it is delegated, but then he is able to do only because he's getting that opportunity. And thus it gives birth to favoritisms. And it gives an understanding that when there is a culture of strength, it gives an understanding that everyone has those unique inborn natural talents. And as a leader, it is my responsibility to unleash all that true potential which my human capital is having in my team and in my organization. So strength-based culture makes you think rather just being judgmental, about people. Then as a leader, I should know that what are my teams and what are my direct strengths and empower them with those individual inborn natural strengths. See, it's very easy to make others count their shortcomings, right? That what are they not good at? But when I say these are your strengths, then I have to also first think rather just make a decision or a judgment. So when you ask what is strength-based culture, it's a culture in which there's a purpose versus a paycheck. When my team is coming, it comes with a purpose, not just thinking about a paycheck for, which they'll get on 26th or 27th. They know that what is the purpose that they're going for. They have their strengths with them, and this is how they're going to apply for to meet the targets of the day. Then it has a conversation versus review. It has a culture of conversation versus reviews. I just go for an MOM and I just give them the reviews. Like, this is what you're not able to do. Whereas in strength-based culture, there's conversation. There is, when I know your strengths, there is going to be conversation in terms of giving them a path, giving them alternatives. That your strength is your creativity, your strength is your maximizer, your empathy. So why don't you use all these kind of strengths to collaborate or to make relationships or to partner with others across the site teams? Then it's a culture of development versus satisfaction. See, when you have a satisfaction, you stop evolving. There's a full stop. Whereas development is a continuous process. So when you know your strengths, you're curious that, okay, how I'm going to apply those strengths, how I'm going to make use of it. And that's how at individual level also the development keeps happening. Then, of course, it's a culture of strengths versus weakness. Then it's a culture of coach versus boss. Instead of just, bossing around, you know the strengths of your people, you know the strengths of your team. So you start coaching them. You start making them realize that, hey, this is the way you can go ahead in your life, or this is the way you can go ahead and even deal with your personal and professional relationships. Then on a whole, it is the culture of life versus job, right? Job and the organizations are just part of life. Life has got a broader meaning.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
So it gives a reason to live for a life. It gives a reason that what are you are going to be bigger aims. How are you going to look at your life or at your ambition after 5 years across the line. So there I sum it up with the strength-based culture in any organization.
So basically, a leader has to, see what's good in each employee, and he or she can say that, I see this is good in you, so you can, really prosper in this aspect, right?
Yes, so it can be seen also, and otherwise, if a leader is a strength-based leader, if a leader himself or herself knows that what are their strengths first, and they have carried out their own process of self-development, then of course they can also understand. Otherwise, there are assessments and there are other tools and all available, which
tools, right?
yes,
Right.
yes. So that's how it is.
So, as you already mentioned, that we now want to fix our employees and look for what's wrong in them, and rather than seeing their strengths and utilizing them. So, how can an organization or leaders now prioritize and build strengths? Like, what are the things that managers or HR leaders should actually look for?
Great, intelligent question, and thanks for asking that question, Sushmita. So, organizations can have strength-based culture as one of their core value. Everything flows top to bottom to make sure that it is executed in true spirit. So, there are many organizations who have even got their assessments done, and employees know their top 5 talents or their top 5 strengths, but then they're not using them. So once it is there in the core value of the organization, then the execution will be there in the true spirit. Then it can be as one of the pointers for the organizations to know strengths of their team. Let the managers know how those strengths can be, unleashed, and how can they make use of that strength. So as I said, to know a strength, one has to think. Else the easiest way is to label people. So that's a positivity in the thought process, and a mindset will be created for managers. Let there be meetings, let there be one-on-ones on the basis of talents, as talents are there naturally in them. And when I say talent, it's a raw talent. You need to invest on it. So investment is done by either by a coach or by an expert who knows those talents. And then talent into investment are developed in strengths.
Right.
And it should start from executive level first. Let the leaders know what are their talents first. So they should know their strengths, because as per the research, 15% of employees strongly agree that the leadership of the organizations make them feel enthusiastic about the future. So you see, that is the kind of things that the employees look upon to their leaders. So first, the leaders also need to have their strengths known, and that will happen once the strength-based culture will be as one of the core value in the organization. Then there can be internal pool of the experts which can be developed in alignment with the team of center of excellence, and there can be many other ways also. Then it also gives an understanding that how of everyone will vary. So if I give one task to 4 people, so their execution will vary. There will be one person who will be creative. There will be one person who will be good in relationship building. Then there will be other people, diverse people, who will be doing their things differently. So I'm only interested in the end result. Let the how vary from my, manager to manager. So that how element will vary as per the talents, as per the inborn talents. And that can be understood only and only when the leaders will know what is the importance of, talents. And that will be known once they themselves will know what are their strengths in them. Right. So,
So I think employees' job performance, right? That will improve after knowing the strengths. That's what you were saying, right? The last point.
Precisely, yes.
Yes.
Precisely, yes.
Yeah. So Namrata, coming to performance feedbacks. Like we use this strength-based approach in even performance feedback, and it's considered to be superior than the weaknesses-centered approach, right?
Yes.
What would be your recommendations on how to deliver effective performance feedback employing a strength-based method?
Yeah, great question, Sushmita. So first, I would say, see, feedback word itself speaks about past. Okay. So in a strength-based culture, we have to work for future. Every organization, for that matter, works for the vision of the organization, right? So the goals are always future-oriented. So that first, strength-based culture will create a mindset change of usage of words. A feed-forward is a future-focused approach. And I always use feed-forward with my team. And all the organizations, as I say, are future, they have a futuristic approach. So now how strength-based approach is superior, right? When you are given a feed-forward in a conversation with all the kind of alternatives to meet your goals, will that be effective, or just a MOM feedback in which you have, you are told that you have not done all these things, and will that be effective? So when I as a leader tells them that these are the initiatives that you have to take, and they can be met by one of your strengths as a collaborator or as a creative person, then the employee also feels empowered that yes, they can do this with all their innate strengths in them. And they get a path to navigate for future. And when he accomplishes all this with their mature talents, then their strengths overpower their weakness. So, moreover, strength-based feed-forward opposed to a visualized failed past. Will that be good to make them realize that what all has been failed? Like you were not able to meet SLA, or you were not able to have those kind of dollar savings which were expected. So this is past. He also knows, I also know. But then what next? How to achieve all that with a positive mind frame? This is possible only when you put in those kind of efforts to put in the strengths in practice that is there very naturally in those employees, and then start working towards those targets. And then you see the chances of achieving success is phenomenal, right? So my recommendation for leaders and managers will be to understand that all people have their natural strengths, which make them think, feel, and behave very, very differently and diversely. And then all have strengths as an ability to consistently provide near perfect performance. So while giving a feed forward, write down their gaps and their strengths and have a conversation, rather a review, to make them aware and appreciate their own respective talents, and disable them with their comparisons with their peers. So managers as coach can ask, exploratory questions while giving them a feed forward, that why were you not able to do? Maybe you were not able to align your all these strengths with this kind of target that were given to you. So that's what my recommendations are.
So can we totally ignore people's weaknesses and weaker areas and other performance risks in the strength-based approach?
No, not at all, Sushmita. Weakness is a blind spot and gray areas. And managing weakness is another way to demonstrate the power of strengths, right? Weakness are an integral part of a strength-based development. But weakness will never develop into a strength. They can only be compensated for, and they can only be managed. How? When you start knowing your strength, when you keep practicing those strengths, then these strengths will overpower the weakness. So the strength develop infinitely, and strengths provide an unlimited and evergreen source for increasing performance. And when they become mature talents and they become your strengths, then you know that where, when, and where to draw a line when you are going for a weakness or when you are going for a blind spot.
So you meant that weakness can never become a strength, right? Is it?
So it is, weakness can be managed.
But it can, but which, we always talk about employee trainings and all. So while we give an employee a training, we never, see what that person is, what his or her strength is, right? But we just continue with the
Yes.
training. So in
Yes.
that case, maybe if he's weak in something, so if he's trained, then can that whatever skill he was trained for, can he or she become an expert in that area?
So, what I say always, and when to my team, is weakness can be fixed only to prevent failure, whereas strengths can be nourished to create success. I leave it up to you to decide whether you want to keep working over your weakness and just keep preventing failure, or you want to dive deeper in your natural talents and then invest, make them mature talents, invest more, dive deep, make them strengths, and then create success.
So basically,
And
before training, it's important to see what that person is good at.
yes, precisely, yes. And then there are a lot of assessments and all which are done through which those natural talents they come into picture. And when we dive deep in those talents, then we realize that right from the childhood, these are the natural talents. So if you are a learner, then you were a learner not just 2 years back, or not while giving this assessment test. You have been a learner right from the childhood. It's just that you realized it now consciously, maybe by undergoing this assessment test, and how this learner thing can help you to make your life as a successful person is something which you need to dive deeper in. And along with you, your leader will help you, or the coach will help you in, make you dive deeper and understanding more about your strength. Now, when I say a weakness is also part of a strength-based culture, again, you have to dive deeper. When you will understand more about learner, you will see that whether you are learning too much, that you are not able to apply all that learning. So where do you have to draw a line? That the execution should also start happening. And there will be a blind spot when you just keep learning and do not apply. So there, the weakness, or in strength-based culture, it is called a blind spot. So the blind spot will be you keep learning, but then you're not applying. So there, this weakness of not applying or not executing will be a blind spot, and will be managed only when you will consciously be knowing that, okay, I've learned this much and now I have to start applying.
So then again, there is a challenge, like how to recognize the strengths of each person when we manage. Is it like by simply seeing their CV, that the strengths they have mentioned in their CV, is that enough, or is there any other way that we can recognize the strengths in each of them?
So when you're recruiting and they have mentioned about things that they have achieved, it can always be asked that how have you achieved? And if he himself or she herself would not know, then somewhere who's interviewing, if they would know what is strength-based culture or strength-based leadership all about, they will be able to slowly, knowing that, okay, this person is good in all these kind of talents, or this person will be having all these kind of strengths. Then once the recruitment is done, and if an organization has a strength-based culture, then they can be put into, that assessment of strength assessment and all these tests, and then precisely the natural talents can come into picture.
Okay. Yeah.
But then these days, people are going for these assessments, and they know that they want to know that what are they good at, so that they can crack the interviews, they can unleash their true potential, and they can understand that basically what are they made for.
Okay, so how to increase engagement by focusing on strengths? What would be your view on that?
Yeah, so as per the statistics, Sushmita, and reports, when employees know their strengths, they're motivated, right? They are more engaged, nearly 6 times more. So they have their higher performance. and are much less likely to leave their company. So they're not leaving the company just because they're engaged, and they feel empowered in their process of development, and they look forward to coming for work. So they have more positive conversations with co-workers, and they even treat their customers better. So when all this kind of culture is there is definitely a increase and elevated level of engagement among the team and among the workers and co-workers in any organization.
Okay, so my next question will be for conflict resolution. That's a very important topic. So can we use a strength-focused approach for that as well?
Yes, I love this question. Thanks for asking this. So you see, the inborn natural strengths also govern our emotions, right? There are characteristics and words describing each strength. So each strength is also associated with the needs. Okay. So for example, an achiever, he or she will need freedom to work in their space and in their speed. So they may need to be busy all the time. So if you have 4 people under you, and if one is achiever, and if that kind of pace and space is not given to him or her, his emotions will vary. So as I say that we all are diverse and unique, and if they're not fulfilled, then something has been lost, and hence the conflicts will come up. So in a strength-based organization, the internal pool of people can also act as a negotiator, and they will be very, very well conversed with the reasons of this varied behavior of employees, and will create win-win situation as a collaborator while negotiating a conflict.
So, Namrata, how does future of work looks like to you? Or, what changes in HR as a function needs to get in the future?
I love that question, Sushmita. You see, coming from forces, having seen VUCA there in the external environment of the organization, I consider myself very lucky to witness real VUCA in corporate, where it is really not at all very easy thing to predict what is going to be next. But one thing I can say that it's going to be very, very different. So to keep up the pace with that, one needs to upskill themselves at a personal level. Mental resilience and discipline with the virtues of adaptability needs to be primed to take on the challenges of future work. So you see, focusing on innate talents as a foundation has become increasingly important. And that's what is very much required to keep pace with the technological changes which are expected in days to come. And because in many organizations now, in many industry-specific skills and knowledge have a very shorter lifespan that they once did. So that's the reason why that continuous improvement in their personal development is very, very important to keep the pace to keep up the pace with the future that the industry will come with. Then the changes in the HR as a function. See, HR is an integral part of an organization.
Right.
Primarily, it deals with human capital of the organization. Traditionally, HR is been in only transactional level functions of recruitment, employee engagement, hiring, etc. See, now HR needs to get aligned themselves not only with corporate strategy but with business strategy as well. They need to see a sweet spot between 3 elements of the organization. That is technology, which is feasibility, business as viability, and people as desirable. So with all these 3 elements, as I say, they should be skilled to find a sweet spot. With human capital, they need to have skill sets of EQ, EI, and empathy. And HR needs to understand the emotion, action, and relations of actions by the people, which can happen only and only when they know the strengths of human capital.
So my last question is, how would you advocate a strength-based workplace, and what would be your suggestions to the managers, leaders and executives who are listening to us?
Okay. Sushmita, strength-based workplace is a place where people are uniquely identified with their talents. When you invest through coach or any expert on talents, they become strengths. So in such workplace, there are no labels for people. What they are doing is because of their talents, with which the other person will be able to do differently, as the other person will have different talents and strengths. So employees will have their top 5 written on their desk. They can make the acronym or anything, for them to enjoy working with their talents. Then advocating about the strength-based culture, I very strongly feel for the leaders to say that strength-based culture is a business strategy for fulfilling exceptional performance and organic business growth. As per studies of Strength Finder, 1.2 million individuals, right, and 49,495 work units in 45 countries specifically shows how strengths affects outcomes. So these statistics speaks volume about itself. Hence, strength-based culture creates the happiness quotient and further EBITDA of the organization, as it will reduce the attrition, and it will, it also improves the brand image of the organization. So that's why I really advocate this kind of culture.
Okay. So lastly, Namrata, please tell how our listeners can reach out to you.
Sure. So they can reach out to me on through LinkedIn with my page, and otherwise my email ID is Namrata_4_in@yahoo.com, and they can reach out to me.
Okay. So that was a great conversation with you, Namrata. Thanks a lot for your insights, and thanks a lot for joining me.
Thanks so much, Sushmita. It was absolutely a pleasure for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast. Please do subscribe to Vantage HR Influencers Podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify for new episodes.